All right, Michael, the people have been waiting for your thoughts here on the Pro Football Focus top 10 head coaches in the NFL. So now here's their criteria, because I read the article a couple days ago and I wanted to understand what they were using to get the results that they got. And they pretty much did two different things. They tried to account for a team's talent using salary cap. So they're using what those contracts were at the given positions to justify, okay, if these guys are paid at premium prices, we can say that they have some level of talent. Then they also tried to predict where the coaches would fill in by using the Pythagorean wins estimate there. And basically, it was defined by how much a team scored or allowed using the benchmark of 348 points in a season here. So the top 10 list is as follows, and we can almost count this down 10-1 here. We have the graphic up, but Mike McCarthy, Dallas Cowboys head coach, at 10. Frank Reich, 9. Mike Vrabel, 8. Kyle Shanahan, 7. Matt LaFleur, 6. Pete Carroll at 5. Cliff Kingsbury at 4. Andy Reid, 3. John Harbaugh, 2. And Bill Belichick, number 1. I'll let you take it away.
Well, I mean, look, I don't understand. I think it's really great that they have a criteria. I think that's one step better than the Hall of Fame voters do for coaches. They don't have a criteria, right? So, it's all subjective. George Seifert can't get into the Hall of Fame, even though he's won 2 Super Bowls. I think he's won 2 or 3. I think he might have won 3. I think he's won 3 Super Bowls. Seifert's won 3 Super Bowls. He's got a 64% win percentage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but he can't get in. He's won 114 games. He's lost 62. He can't get in. Okay. So, Mike Shanahan can't get in. He hasn't gotten in yet. Marty Schottenheimer is only one of 9 people on planet Earth that have won 200 games. Okay. He can't get in. 61% win percentage. He can't get in. Because there's no criteria, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no criteria. Is the criteria you got to win a Super Bowl to get in? Well, George Allen didn't win one. He's in. Do you have to go to the playoffs every year? George Allen got in, but, he didn't go to the playoffs every year. So it's a moving target. It's based on a popularity contest. So I give Pro Football Focus credit for at least having a criteria. I don't understand their criteria, but they have one. So once what criteria doesn't have Mike Tomlin in a top 5 coach? Mike Tomlin is a 64% win percentage coach. He has got 154 wins. He's got 85 losses and 2 ties. He's won a Super Bowl. He is a lock to go into the Hall of Fame. When I wrote this new book, which I still can't come up with the title yet, and I appreciate everybody tweeting to me about it.
Yeah, we got a lot of those.
And some are great. The publisher's going to have to weed them out. But Mike Tomlin is based on my criteria, he's a complete lock. He meets every criteria that I set forth. And I won't give away the criteria because I want you to read the book. But he's a lock to go in the Hall of Fame, a complete lock. How is he not in the top 10? Like, that team he coached last year was horrible with one of the worst quarterbacks in all of football. Like, how? And he made the playoffs with a quarterback with no arm strength. How is he not there? How is Sean McVay not there? Now, Sean McVay's a 67% winning percentage coach. He's been to the Super Bowl twice. He's won 1, lost 1. Now, yes, he's got talent. Okay. But think about this, Femi. I wrote about this today about, Cooper Kupp just getting a new contract, right? He got Cooper Kupp the ball 75. Cooper Kupp's percentage of targets to catches was 75%, which was the 3rd best amongst receivers in the National Football League. Remarkable. Like, Stephon Diggs is only 62%. And he had 81 first downs, the most he's ever had in his career. He averaged 40 in his first year. What does that tell you? He gets the ball to the guy even though he's double covered.
Yeah.
And he's not on this list. Mike Vrabel's playing with Ryan Tannehill, and all he could do is come in 8th. I mean, how does this list? Cliff Kingsbury's the 4th best coach in the National Football League. I mean, John Boulay said this before we got started. He said 2 of the guys on this top 10 list might get fired. Here's another one, okay, and I'll let you take the floor. I love Kyle Shanahan. I think Kyle Shanahan is one of the best offensive minds in football. He's creative. Mm-hmm. He's very good. He's 3 games below 500. He's went to 1 Super Bowl. He's a great offensive coach. Is he a great head coach? I think you have to answer that question honestly. I love him. I think he's really good. I think he's becoming a better head coach. But he's 3 games below 500 as a head coach. Now, if you want to put him in the top 3 of offensive coordinators, go ahead and do it. He's right there.
Yeah. To me, when we got to 4, we talked about this before the show, and I was reading the article, and I was like, okay, the top 3, I can get with that. Belichick number 1, no explanation needed there. I have Reed number 2, Harbaugh 3. They have it reversed, so I was like, okay, I'm not going to kill them. Harbaugh's their second guy. He's my third guy. There's nothing to kill them for. But Cliff Kingsbury, to me, is the one where I look at that, I'm like, okay, now we're off the rails with Cliff Kingsbury. The fact that he is that high up, and the justification for Kingsbury was that outside of Murray and Hopkins, they don't have a whole lot of offensive talent based off of the contracts and all the metrics that they use there. But still, to me, I mean, this guy has faltered every step of the way in the second half, going all the way back to Texas Tech. He's never been a winning caliber head coach there. Maybe as an offensive play caller, he can get things going there, but in terms of being the actual head coach and the CEO of the entire operation, he doesn't move me in that regard. So I didn't understand Cliff Kingsbury being at number 4 to me there. Tomlin, though, I think Tomlin's probably top 5, like number 5. The fact that he was able to take Ben Roethlisberger the last 2 years to the playoffs is incredible. And that's what is kind of docking them in their metric, because Ben Roethlisberger had such a high-paying contract. So it's like, well, you have a high-priced quarterback, but that guy was being overpaid.
He sucks.
Yeah, exactly. He was being overpaid.
It's like I'm coaching. It's like the head coach of the New York Giants. You know, you got a shitty team and you're over the cap. That's not your fault.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't put a thing. I mean, look, of the top 100 players in all of football, I think, Joe Gibbs, to me, is one of the greatest coaches of all time. He won 154 games during his era. When he came back the second time, he wasn't as good because the game had kind of advanced on him. But the fact that he won 3 Super Bowls without a marquee quarterback, with Stan Humphries, with Doug Williams, and Mark Rippon, I mean, that's really remarkable. You know, Marty Schottenheimer never really had an elite quarterback, and he still won 200 games. And he never had an elite. Is it his fault? I don't know. You know, I mean, the fact that Tomlin was able to milk, I mean, most coaches would have been bitching and screaming to have to play Ben last year, and yet he did and made the playoffs. I mean, come on. Like, I don't understand. You're using the payroll, so you're assuming now that the payroll's correct.
Yep.
Like, you're not even valuing overpaid contracts. Like, the Rams contracts are basically, they give it to 4 or 5 guys. They're all great, and they all play great, and that's why they win. But, you know, McVay still has to maneuver some pieces around. He has to keep his team healthy, which I think is really hard. In fact, he's not on the list. Let me ask you this question. If Matt LaFleur and Mike Vrabel were to change sidelines, and you give Mike Vrabel Aaron Rodgers, and you give Matt LaFleur Ryan Tannehill, well, we've already seen that with Matt LaFleur when he was in Tennessee. They were the 28th ranked offense in football. How's Matt LaFleur a better head coach than Mike Vrabel? Come on, this is a joke. I don't care what anybody. I would be embarrassed to put Cliff Kingsbury for. I like Cliff as a human being, wonderful guy.
Seems like a great guy.
But even he would admit he's not a better coach than some of these guys on this list.
The guy Pete Carroll at number 5 is where he's at, and I was talking with Stephen Bond about it. I was like, "Gosh, Pete Carroll at 5. That seems kind of high for me," because I think everybody gets Pete Carroll wrong, and I think that Pete Carroll is the perfect example of why it's hard to evaluate head coaches, because I think the things that Pete Carroll struggles at are the things that we all see on TV, whether it's mismanaging challenges or mismanaging the clock or not knowing when to go for it on 4th down or whatnot. But the things that Pete Carroll is elite at are the things that are behind closed doors. And that's building a culture and making sure guys want to play for you, making sure that they're motivated. And that, as a coach, is hard to quantify because we don't see it. We don't know what the impact is from a numbers standpoint. But it definitely matters because these guys could have quit on Pete Carroll long ago, but his message is still fresh, even though he's been there since 2009 or 2010, I believe.
The guy's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's taken teams to the playoffs outside of Seattle. He took New England to the playoffs, right? He's got 152 career wins in the league. He's a 59.3% win percentage coach. He's coached 16 years. You know, he meets the criteria that I set forth to get in the Hall of Fame. He meets it. Now, do I think he screws up things? Yeah, I do. I think we all do. Yeah, I screw up things every day.
Yeah, nobody's perfect.
Do I think he makes bad challenges? Yeah, I think so. I think there's, but nobody's perfect other than the analytical community. But, I think do I think he's the fifth best coach in the league? I think his teams always are hard to play. And I think he does a good job. And he was, he brought this defense that a lot of people are using in the league that came from his study. And I think you got to give him credit for that. I think you definitely do. I think there's no doubt about that. I just think, to me, I don't understand how you can have this list and have Mike Vrabel, as low as he is, and not have McVay and Tomlin on the list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that, to me, whatever your criteria is, like Andy Reid's a 63% winning percentage coach. 63%, right? Mike Tomlin is 64%. They both have won one Super Bowl. Andy Reid's coached 23 years. Mike Tomlin's coached 15. Like seriously, Mike Tomlin is the 20th highest ranked winning percentage coach in all of football. Sean McVay is 10th at 67%. Now, he doesn't have enough games. He only has 5 seasons.
Yeah.
But how do you not account for that? Like at some point, we are evaluating this whole thing. And the criteria of weighted, like some coaches, unfortunately, like some of the best coaching jobs are the jobs when you don't have a quarterback. When you manufacture a team, I thought Belichick's best coaching job was 2 years ago with Cam Newton. He didn't make the playoffs. I thought it was one of his best coaching jobs.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and Pro Football Focus, and I'm not sure where you stand on them. And I think they're healthy for the discourse because they make you think about things in different ways. But this is a very, very spicy list that has its holes, as we've outlined here.
Well, they sell themselves as an analytic, but somebody has to grade the film. Like this is somebody. There is a subjective area to what they do. They have people grading the film based on the criteria they set forth based on analytics. So when they evaluate quarterbacks, they are evaluating based on the criteria, and someone's watching it. So it comes back down to evaluate the evaluator.
Yeah.
It comes back to that. It's not baseball. Baseball is pure analytics, right? You throw all this shit into the computer and the numbers come out. And people analyze the data. It's like this bullshit that's going on in the NBA. Shot quality, their shot quality was extremely high. Will Hill had the guy on his podcast on the New York City Betcast. He had him on, and the guy looked like he was 12 years old. He looked like he was going to be Dominic's going to hang out and babysit Dominic. I mean, so anyway, he's in here, and he's like, okay, if I have a 30-foot open shot, that's a bad shot for me. I can't make it. If Steph Curry has a 30-foot open shot, that's a great shot. So you can't have shot quality without the shooter being involved in the number. Right?
Yeah.
Draymond Green's corner three is a bad shot. He can't make it. But if you give somebody else that corner three, they make it. Like it's all predicated on who is the guy. Coaches don't look at. Coaches never look at. I can't let that corner three be open because that. No, they look at who's the shooter.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'll say about shot quality is that I think it was built to absolutely make bettors furious, so that you can say, "Oh my gosh, I handicapped the game correctly, but I still lost." But shot quality told me I made a good handicap. It has no merit.
It has to be able to be. You've got to be. It's like Belichick says all the time. The analytical people say, "Okay, we need to be an 11 personnel to throw the football." Okay, great. All right, let's get an 11. But who's going to block fucking J.J. Watt over here? We have nobody to block him. So let's get an 11. Like maybe we get an 11 this week when J.J. Watt's not over there humming down your throat. Or, we don't, and they got two edges. You go play the Raiders and you got Max Crosby and you got Chandler Jones and you got no tight end to block either guy or help out in protection, and you're an 11. It makes no sense. Like every week is predicated based on what you can do. And then sometimes when you look at these numbers, let's take Tampa Bay, for example. Tampa Bay was the best run defense in the league. Mm-hmm. Their passing numbers were horrible. They weren't great. You know why? Because people didn't even try to run the ball on them. They said it was worthless. So they threw it more. Their attempts were the highest in the league. So it's all cause and effect. And if you don't put the player in, how do you not? If you don't put the team and the player in analytics and data driven, how do you evaluate it?
Yeah, no, it's not everything can be accounted for, which is why we love sports. I mean, like the things being quantified makes it interesting from a talking point of view here, but the unquantifiable is what makes sports unpredictable, and it's why we love it. Just to clean things up, though.
Well, before we go, I mean, how can we talk about the top 10 without bringing up the great Brandon Staley? I mean, how the fuck can we do this? I mean, it's a complete crime. We should be arrested and sentenced to Attica. I mean, he was supposedly the best coach in the history of Pro Football Focus last year. Here's the perfect example. I am not against analytics. I am not. I think it's really important. But I think analytics have to be married into players, schemes, and talent. I think that's important. Like, not all fourth downs are the same fourth down. Not all third downs are the same. So when you just arbitrarily go for every fourth down, that's not analytics. You're just going for it. That's a philosophy, right? And so, like he cost his team a playoff. And I don't understand how he can't be involved here when they said he was the best he was the best coach in the league last year. Like, what happened to that?
Here's what they wrote about Brandon Staley, who checked in at number 12 for the folks keeping score at home. Quote, the former defensive coordinator has done a strong job embracing analytical ideas and done a respectable job overseeing strong offensive outputs. However, for his success to continue, his defensive output will need to follow suit. So Staley's got to clean up his side of the ball.
He's the defensive coach. They had the worst defense in football last year. Like, that's his specialty. They were 32nd in the league in points allowed. He was a disaster in red zone. He was a disaster. How he's 12th? Is he ahead of Tomlin, too?
He is one spot ahead of Tomlin, who comes in at 13.
Jesus Christ. I mean, throw the thing in the trash, please. Throw it in the fucking trash. I'm done. I'm done. You pissed me off for the day.
Thanks for watching the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi. And for more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to VSiN Live and the GM Shuffle podcast with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN, wherever you get your podcasts.